To basically walk you through some of the steps with After Effects. Just as a little beginner, it's going to be very simple and not really related to your project specifically, but I think it's important that you kind of know how to use the program a little bit before you start doing your own animations. So first off, it's pretty simple to open the program. We're using Adobe After Effects. It should be installed on your laptop, so you can just search it up and find it. It might be a different version to this one that I've got, but as long as it's After Effects, that'll work. So what we want to do is we want to create a new composition. So that's here. So you click on it and this menu comes up. If the menu wasn't there when you started it, you could also go into File, go New, a new project, and to actually get that new composition, what you'd have to do then would be go down into the corner here and create new composition. It's kind of like a little piece of film. So you click on it and a whole bunch of settings come up. So this can seem daunting at first, but we need to make sure that it fits with what our project specifies. So in the assessment handout, it says that our width needs to be 1280 pixels and our height needs to be 720, and it already is. So we could change that to any number of things by just clicking on it and then typing in the number, and then the size of our artboard would change and the size of the video would change. So this is an aspect ratio of 16:9, which means for every 16 pixels it goes across, it goes 9 up and down. We're using square pixels. That just means that each pixel is a square, and our frame rate is how many still pictures are going to be shown per second. So the assessment handout states that it needs to be 24, but we could change it to make it slower if we wanted to, or we could speed it up if we wanted to make the animation more smooth. So this is down here our duration. So we want our video to go for 1 minute, and look at that, I've already got mine set for a minute. So the way that it works is that this first column on the left is your hour, the second column is your minutes, your third column is your seconds, and then each second is broken up into 24 frames. So there's 24 frames per second, so each of those last two will count to 24 and then it will go to 1 second. Okay, so I like to name my project Top Comp. That means it's going to be the top composition and the most important one. I can change the background color to anything I like, and once I've done that, I hit OK. So you've got an artboard here, you've got all of the compositions here, and if I add another one, you can see that it's there. I've got some effects and presets here, which we'll look at later. I've got a timeline here, which doesn't show much at the moment, but once we put some things in, you'll be able to see a lot more detail in there. Then up the top, I've got my standard buttons, which are a lot like Photoshop. So I've got a shape drawing tool, I've got the pen tool, text, an eraser, clone stamp, which is similar to Photoshop again, and a few other things that we probably won't need to use for this project, but if you're interested in them, there's plenty of tutorials online. So to draw a simple shape, I can click on the rectangle tool. If I hold it down, it'll give me those other shapes. So it's just like Photoshop, you click and you drag. So if you want to make sure you get a perfect square, if you hold down the Shift key, it constrains the proportions, so I can't make it go into a rectangle. So hold down Shift and you'll get a square. And you'll notice that that shape layer came up on my timeline. Now I can go into that rectangle, I can change the color of it, I can change the shape of it over time with the animation. I can change where it is on screen. So if I wanted to change where it is on screen, and I'll teach you how to do this later, I would do a keyframe per position. I would change it to, let's say, 3 seconds roughly, and I can always go in and go and get an exact time by just clicking on it, and then it'll adjust to it 3 seconds, and then I'm going to move it across to the other side of the screen. Then if I drag it back and hit the spacebar, it'll animate. So it's running a bit slower than real time, and it will because it uses up a lot of memory on your computer. But it still gives me an idea. If I think that that's too slow or too fast, I can always bring it back in. But we'll talk about that in another episode, well, in another video that I've got. So if I draw a simple shape and I'm going to get rid of my animation now, so it's just sitting there. I can go up the top and I can change the fill color to whatever I want. I can change the stroke color to whatever I want, and I can make it much thicker if I'd like to. I could also go in and I put some effects on it, but we don't really need to do that yet. I could combine two shapes together. I could copy and paste and move it over and make my shapes animate together by placing them in a group. You can create simple shapes in here, but if you're drawing pictures, you really want to do it in Photoshop or Illustrator and then transform it, and we'll talk about that in another episode. To do a different style shape, you could just change the shape of it, then we can go in and once again change the colors. And yeah, it's pretty simple for simple shapes. If you were just creating a simple like a simple shape like one of these, and you could create it in After Effects. You wouldn't have to create it in Photoshop and then import it in, but if you wanted to add things like shading, you would probably use that program to do it. So that's all for this video. So have a go with changing things around, changing colors, and try and have two shapes on your artboard. So when you're ready to save it, it's the same as any other Adobe program. So you just go save or save as the first time you do it, and then you'll get the menu After Effects project. You can put it into whatever file you want. I'll just save it to my desktop for now. And then you can exit out of the program or you can go on to the next video. Thanks very much.